I see.
So,
Okay.
dear Heavenly Father, it's with your divine love and grace we come together. May you continue to bless us, to continue coming together to read and understand more lessons from the living spring. In your name, we ask that you bless our session this evening. So be it. Okay, so screen share. Impediments. Who wants to read?
Oh, shoot. Now, how am I going to go up and down? You are. Okay. Let us set aside every impediment and let us run with perseverance the race before us. Excuse me. Wherever you go, carrying the vessel of your faith and pouring it out in the form of good works, you will always encounter many impediments, oh Lord, that make things difficult for you. Today, it is the failure at your attempts to progress.
So let's say if it was some of the things that get in our way, we think that God is, well, if you don't know any better, people think it's God, you know.
The interference, you mean?
Yeah, setting these roadblocks in front of you for you to, like a test. But what Spiritism teaches us is that we help co-create our lives and what happens in our lives. And part of it has to do with our past lives. And we are living what, like where we left off at. We continue trying to move forward from that space. And there are a lot of things that come in our lives at all times. I was just telling Valerie that at every age, I mean, at every age, there's something, you know, when we're young, we always wish we were older. But every age comes with its own trials. I mean, if you're a toddler, you got to learn how to walk, you hit your head, you fall, you slide. And then, but as you become even older, like elementary age, they come with problems as well. You know, you're being embarrassed about your clothes, being embarrassed about your family, and maybe you don't have any friends, and it's just all kinds of crazy things that go on in our lives. And then it proceeds from there. You become teenagers, and oh my God, will you have any friends, or will you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? And oh man, and we think those little things are, but they're the highlights of our lives at that time, but we think those little things are monumental at that age, you know. And whether or not you'll have lunch money, or, you know, it's just full of, the life is just full of things that go on, even though they seem small and minuscule at that time. They're huge to us when we're at that age. So and like you were saying, let me see, and today failure attempts at progress. Isn't that, what was that? Yeah, today it is the failure at your own attempts to progress. And sometimes that we try to move forward, even if it's in jobs or at school, a lot of times it's moving too fast, and we may not be ready for these attempts to try and move forward. And if you don't keep up, of course, you may not make it to the next level, especially in school. It's always work to be done.
Well, and I want to say this on that last sentence. It doesn't mean that your failure, it doesn't mean what attempts you make. It's just like anything else. Maybe you thought that was your attempt. It doesn't mean it's a failure. I think it's a learning opportunity. And I also think that it's when you reincarnate and picked up where you left off. I don't think there's anything that comes by mistake. I think there's some things that, at least for me, I can look back and say, oh, I get it now. I get why this happened. I understand now. And so to me, it's like, because it's like anything else. You don't know. We're ignorant. You're right. But it doesn't mean that. I think, well, like I said, for anybody else, I think it's always learning something if you're open to it. If you're not, then it's the hard knocks of life. Why? Because I think people that are older, they attempt to teach you, and you look at them as like, what do you know, kind of thing. And that's part of life. That's how I think that's how you mature and grow. And if you don't, I think all of us know people that are immature. They've not grown up. They still act like they're 10 or 15. And the maturity level is just not there. Why? I don't know. Maybe for different reasons, but there's those of us that know, I know, we're going to incarnate in the lessons that we need to redo or we'll learn or whatever it might be. But I don't know. I just, when I was reading on my own lesson to present on Sunday, which will probably be all over the place because I've been, but that's part of what I agree with. I agree that Mother Nature's perfect. I agree that everything that happens is for our good. The rain, the weather, the temperature, whatever. And it mimics, certainly not us, but it's a model. It's just like the roots that grow on the tree, and they're grounded in and of itself. But like you said, Regina, they start out small and then they mature and hopefully give you the best fruit that tastes good at the end result, and then it starts all over. So to me, that's the same analogy. As I was reading, all kinds of things were coming to my head about that. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer.
Yeah, you're right. Failures are progress. I agree. It's a process to continue their learning lessons. Yeah, very good. Valerie, you have anything?
Well, I'm in agreement with what's being said, and it's how you respond to things. It is our karma that we are working out, and we do interact with others in our lives. So it's within us. What are we going to do when others do things to us? Are we going to blame them, or are we going to try to figure out what we can do? We're going to let others define us, and by whatever they project or what they say. It's about picking yourself up and getting stronger when you get impeded by things. I was looking at the word impediment, and the root of the word is ped, like foot.
Yeah.
So it's like something in your way. I thought that was really neat, getting on your in the way of you going forward. So, but don't take it as a punishment, as you were saying, Sonia. Take it as a learning, and not that God hates you, but it will make you strong. So
That's true. Yeah.
Well, it's a tool. He's a tool and a teacher and a guide and a model. And so I think that's the piece where, I don't know, until people are in need or desperate or suffering or something like that, then it's like, that's been my experience anyway. Then you're ready to turn your eyes for help or ask for help. And that there's nothing wrong with that, because something has to bring us to our knees. I just said it's, when, and I think, and then there's people who, like that something happens in their lives, and then you're right, they blame God, and they're upset and never get over it, and it's God's fault as to, their loved one, even if it's a child, passed on. And I'm not saying it's not easy, it's very difficult, and I'm not saying it is, but I think sometimes there's something behind it. I don't know, and it's karma or whatever it might be, but there's always something behind it. But it still doesn't mean, and I've always said that it still doesn't mean we're human, and it doesn't hurt, because if we didn't have feelings, then what's the point?
Exactly. Right.
Not that you deserve it and that's what it's, but I don't I don't think, well, I don't believe God is harsh like that. And it's like, you deserved it. You did it on your own. I don't believe that, because then what would be what would be the point? So,
Truly. My Ed has a deep faith in his connection to his higher self and the great spirit, but he does not believe in the God that most people believe in. He doesn't want to believe in a punishing God, or why would God let all these things happen if there was a God? And I'm saying it doesn't work that way. There is the law of karma, and we are on a planet of duality, good and bad, right, wrong, day and night. So it's like, how do you balance these
yeah, the
things
duality is a
and
good
find,
point.
right, yeah, and that's on this planet, but I don't think it exists on every planet. It's a tough road to hoe. It's very difficult. And but he doesn't have faith in the religious God, or the punishing God or the judgmental God, but he believes in the spirit of life and the good and love. And so, I think when you lose a child, it must shake you to your core. It must really make you really question everything. There was a book called Many Lives, Many Mansions, and it was a
Mhm.
psychiatrist who worked with a woman who was exceptionally neurotic, really kind of crazy, and found out that most of the things, he would hypnotize her and go into her past lives and go to many. He worked with her over months, and a lot of her neurotic behavior stopped when she went back and found out what it was that was creating all this stuff in her life. And then after he started working with her in past life, then the masters came forward, the spiritual masters came forward. And he had lost a child. And that he and his wife, I guess, as a baby, the baby had died. And he found out through talking to the higher beings and the masters that came through in these different sessions that it was a lesson for he and his wife. And it was, he didn't say exactly what it was, but he then understood that it was a karmic lesson for them. And he no longer blamed God or blamed, others, or felt victimized by it. So I think that when people can open to what eternity actually means, and that we are eternal beings, and this is a stage of progress, and to work things out till we can reach the frequency of the higher beings. It's not about blame, and it's not about
Mhm.
being unkind to yourself either. It's about acceptance, I would think.
Mhm.
So anyway, blah blah.
No, but that's true. A lot of people do think that, would think that God is a mean God or a
Mhm.
vengeful God. But what a lot of this stemmed from was back in the old days, where that's all they knew was violence. And
Mhm.
that was the language. The language was violence. And
Right.
so they had to grow out of that. Their entertainment was watching somebody getting eaten by a lion or
Right.
alligator, whatever those things were that they would put in the arena and watch you run from it or something.
Right. And
Yeah,
to kill people in the name of God also, because if you were a Protestant and not a Catholic, I guess I was just reading about Bloody Mary, who was she persecuted hundreds and hundreds of people for not being Catholic. And it's just like, that's kind of twisted. But you're right, it was the language of violence, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So
I mean, there's a lot of ignorance. There's a
yeah,
lot, there still is to date,
right.
a
yeah,
lot of
Right.
ignorance.
And it's constantly being bombarded in people's mind from the movies that they watch, the news that they
true,
listen to, you know,
Craziness.
right,
and
right,
and and like we had to search out. We had to do our homework to find a different way of seeing God. the right way of seeing God, you know.
Mhm.
It's not going to be handed to anybody. Everybody's got to do their own work.
Right.
Cannot hand it to anyone. So that's just how it works, you know.
Yep.
So it's work no matter what.
And if we didn't have to work, then that's like going to work, because who would work if they didn't have to support themselves? I
Well,
know I wouldn't go to work.
well, but you would find something to work at. I tell you, you would. You know, because it gives
After
your
all-
life meaning. Gives your life
after
meaning.
Well, yeah, and after all this, and it's true. I think if a part of what, I call it a workaholic, other than you don't leave till, especially if you're helping somebody, you don't leave until, you can close that loop. That's how I feel. So sometimes I
True.
end up working 12-hour days and you get paid for 8, and stuff like
Right.
that. But, then sometimes people take advantage of that, but you know better. You know
Yeah.
what you're supposed to be doing and setting boundaries and stuff like that. But anyway,
Hi,
Goes into your
Taylor, welcome.
goes into your spiritual bank account. I believe.
Hi. Okay, Sonia.
oh, tomorrow is the companion who fails you. The day after, it is the unfair persecution of your ideal. Then the day after that, it is the bitterness of bile coming from the lips of those who deserve your love. From time to time, you have to endure.
Let's do a little bit at a time.
Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
oh, let me finish that one. From time to time, you have to endure other people's incomprehension. Isn't that the truth?
Mhm.
Well, and again, I think reading that to me is that's where you are. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just that it's like we have adults that are immature. They don't know they're immature, and they don't, it's back and forth. You don't understand, they don't understand. So
Right.
it's like your
Yeah.
kids. It's like your kids, right? You think you're being mean or picked on or whatever it might be. When, as a matter of fact, I think as a parent, you're trying to help, or you think you're helping. Somebody doesn't understand. So,
Right.
Well, too, and when you look to other human beings for your answers, I mean, especially if they're not a loving person, you could get steered in the wrong direction. And comprehension, tomorrow it is the companion who fails you. And that to me could mean that you have put way too much into a human being and not enough in your own believing in yourself and God and the direction in which you feel in your heart you need to be going in. Because I think everybody gets some inspiration as to move forward in a certain direction. And then you can easily see that as being unfair when it doesn't go well. And you can go ahead, Valerie.
No, I was going to say, sometimes people let you down. They let you down, and it's very disheartening when you think you can count on somebody and they don't come through, or they betray you, or it's you're right. You put too much faith in another, and you can be devastated.
and that's what that third sentence is. It can be that turns the bitterness and the bile, and it keeps adding for those who deserve your love. But again, to me, it's kind of like peeling the layers off. So like I think I had said this to you, Regina, is that a karma? Is that meant to be? Is that somebody from your past life and you're reconciling to make it right? Is that a lesson for you, or is it all of the above?
All of the above.
Oh.
See, that's what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't see it like that.
Right. Well, they think it's because it's karma, it has to be a negative. And it's not a negative, it's in your face to show you this is what you created. Because again, we are all co-creators of our own life. And the free will that God gives us is our decision to go left or right or straight ahead. That's our decision.
That's
We're
free will.
we're giving the information. We know what happens if we go left. We know what happens when we go right, and we know what happens if we move forward. Get past it, forgive, let go.
See,
And
I'm not sure I'm convinced that you know what happens, because I think that
Right, right.
that seems like, I mean, no, to me, I make it as the analogy of, okay, some people are retarded and they, I don't drink. I've never been, I don't even, nothing. I don't even know unless they give me some Ativan before surgery or something. Okay. But, they'll get in their car and drive. Do you think anybody would get in the car and drive if they knew they were too inebriated and were going to crash? No, I don't think anybody would. And I think it's the same thing. It's like, well, maybe I can. It's that kind of maybe I can or maybe I can't. Because I mean, like I've always said, I don't think anybody, and mind you, I've worked in substance abuse and I've seen a lot of things, and my heart always went to, I don't think any one of these people sitting in this circle thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to be an alcoholic. I think I'm going to do that. Rather than self-medicating. And so my heart always went, I was like, okay, you're here for a reason. What works and doesn't work? Because I don't think any folks sitting here is like planned on this. It happened. So that's where my heart and compassion is like, okay, can you do differently? That's the piece of, what's going to happen if you think you can take that first drink and stop. You can't.
Right, right.
How many
right.
times do alcoholics relapse? Yeah, and that's to be expected. I mean, I know I always expected it. I'm like, okay, we'll see. And you got to hit your head 15 times or be sick or something's going to happen. And all that is, I think those are just our lessons, and they're hard ones.
yeah, I agree. But what I was referring to is you learn before you do drugs what drugs are and what they can do. You
That's
learn that you need to learn how to drive before you get behind the wheel. You learn that you can't just get in an airplane and just take off and like it ain't no car. You can't do that. And you also learn that if you want to be a doctor, you've got to go to school. This is where I'm coming from. The choice is ours. So we know what we've seen people who have become drug addicts. We've seen what that does. But that doesn't mean that we believe it's going to happen to us. I get that. But the choice is still mine. I can still go out here and try this drug or go out here and try liquor. That's my choice. Go right, go left, or go straight. That's what I'm saying. It's not like there's a blank slate and nobody knows nothing. That's not how it's done. You have a warning, use the choice. Now, because a person does do it, no, we don't kick them in the head because they do it. And they're not, and we don't, and God doesn't disown them because they do it.
Of course not.
Yeah, and so why should we? So you made a mistake, you messed up, you there, and now this is your lesson to learn. And I do believe too that it's possible for some people this lifetime to want to experience drugs.
Or experiment.
Experiment, whatever.
Fit in.
And then get
Really
hung up.
stupidity.
And they get hung up, and can't get out of it, So
Yep.
I mean, that it's just layered, all of it.
Yep. It's life is
Agreed.
complicated.
What is one of the first steps in AA is to recognize that,
Admit.
admit, and then that you're really not in control. Most alcoholics think, well, I can control it, or it doesn't control
That's like
me.
food.
Well, it's addiction.
I can have one cookie.
Yes,
Oh
it's
my God.
addiction. Yeah, it's a way to medicate or you think you're making yourself feel better, but when it comes down to it's not working for you anymore, like you said, people sometimes have to be totally leveled and reach their bottom before they'll recognize that their choices were not in their best interest.
I know.
And that's a hard one. There's a new movie out with Morgan Freeman, Molly Shannon, a couple other people, but it's basically about grief and addiction, and it's supposed to be very humorous, but it's very deep. And it's called "You're a Good Girl," I think, or "You're a Good Person." And I just saw it advertised the other day, and I wanted to watch it because it deals with grief, which we all have to learn to deal with, and how people handle grief.
Is it
And
on
where
Netflix? I mean,
I think it's coming out in theaters.
oh,
Yeah, and it probably will go to Netflix probably very soon. Yeah, I think there was the guy who was on Scrubs for years, which I don't know his name and I didn't really watch, but he's a comic who directed it and went back to his high school, but it's something I want to see because it's dealing with things we all have to deal with. How do we deal with grief? How do we deal with disappointment? How do we deal with failure and move forward? So I just an interesting thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus.
Mhm.
It's not always easy for people to move forward. But again,
No,
you know, I it really does help to have some spiritual background,
Mhm.
like what we learn in these books.
hmm
And I think it's comforting to know that there's no such thing as death and that the spirit moves on. But not just that, what else does it do? I mean, what else do you do when you're a spirit? And like they
hmm
say, so below, so above, life goes on. They're moving in and out above. They just don't have to uh, eat animals and stuff like that in the spirit world. But they're
right.
still working, they're still studying, they're still going to classes, and they're still helping people. I mean, so the work never ever stops, and having something to do never stops. But I think it would help if the education about spirituality was more vast and people knew more. I think it would help
I,
calm them down a lot more. And
I
then
think
knowing
that
about the laws of the universe and how all this stuff works.
right, without judgment,
Oh, for sure.
without yeah. I think and that is my ex-husband used to be a counselor in a methadone maintenance clinic before he became an attorney, and the what he came out saying was truly the thing that really worked for people was AA, was surrendering to a higher power.
Mhm.
That worked more than any other treatment anywhere. So I thought that was quite interesting
Yeah, and
when
what was really neutral about that is that they're not saying God, which turns people into religion.
right,
That's the first thing they look at. And
Mhm.
right,
that judgmental God that's in the church,
right,
you
right.
know. And it's
Agreed.
unfortunate because only spirit, when you start learning more, like we are, we learn that God is loving and kind and, and forgiving more than anything, and there for
And,
you.
right. And we're learning how to consciously create because we're creating all the time. So through our
Mhm.
choices and what we give our energy to. So I think that's the main lesson is what are we creating and how are we creating?
You
Uh-huh.
know,
And to do it consciously, to consciously do it.
Mhm. Right. Right.
I've spoken about this before, but I have a sister that's gone down the rabbit hole, and I don't think I can even speak to her for a while because all she's trying to do, going into, to have to endure people's incomprehension. She's constantly trying to shove this stuff into my brain that she thinks she knows, and it's very QAnon oriented, and it freaks me out. It's like I don't even know who she is. And so I'll text her and I send her love and that sort of thing. But every time she gets me on the phone, she's trying to prove to me that she knows more than me, and this is what's happening, and I should be all upset about it. And it's just like, oh my God, you sound like a fearful person. You don't sound like you have much faith. But
Wow.
she lost her daughter during COVID, and so in her mind, everything is it's anti-vaxxing, everything is anti-vax because her daughter she believed was handicapped because of vaccines as a little girl. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's kind of traumatizing, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's traumatizing for me too.
Yeah, I get it. But here again is the person
Yes.
who stopped learning. They stopped
That's
learning.
correct.
It's all
Right.
material, education and material satisfaction, and that's not working. That's like a dog chasing its own tail. You just keep spinning around and around, and there's no end to that. And one of the things that was said the other day was a good exercise. I think it was that Nora, I think, was the one that was telling the teacher, the other Sheila, that it was good to, or one of the things she had done that was good for her to do was to always say they're a child of God and visualize them.
Yes.
And then visualize the parents loving them. I think, was that you, Nora, who said that?
I think it was
Sending them love.
but yeah, and sending, yeah, exactly.
And sending them
And seeing
love.
them as a child of God.
And
When you have a
sending them
different
love. Yeah, and that's to help kind of get her out of that tailspin,
That's what
Yeah,
I do. I see her
yeah.
as I send her love, and I can't talk to her.
I know.
I can't talk to her.
Well, and she might think that she's trying to save you and help you, because clearly she had two whammies. She lost her daughter, so that's clearly out of fear.
Truly.
So
Yeah. Well, when she told me that, and she said, and you laughed at me when I said you're magnetic now from the vaccines. And I said, oh my God, you're out of your mind. And then Ed in the background said, yeah, I can put paper clips to my neck now and they don't fall down. I mean, trying to make a joke out of the whole thing. But it's
Oh my God.
but it's like, holy crap, where did you go? Who are you? I don't even know her. You know what I mean? I don't even know her. So
Wow,
anyway, I just take her and see her as the child of God that she is, and send her love and not judge her. I can't, it's like, you know what I mean? I've got to separate, but not from the spirit, but from the personality stuff. I've got to, just keep my center.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Sonia.
Sorry, Godwin.
Yeah, no, every now and then you run up against 1,000 obstacles that induce you to inertia or negativity. Nevertheless, the journey ahead of us should unfold on the road of incessant good. What are we to do with people and circumstances that hinder or immobilize us? I finished reading out. The apostle to the Gentiles is categorical in his response.
Well, let's deal with the first part first. Wow.
That's it right there. Yeah. That's it. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, but and they're trying to tell us to keep to try to be as positive as we can and understand the circumstances in which we are under, to try to keep moving and stay positive, stay mobile, don't get stuck.
Yeah.
And because getting stuck you could end up in a very bad place.
Sure, and it makes sense. Again, if you're looking for the good and focusing on the good, you're not going to attract all the negativity. You see the good in it no matter what. So you will be creating for yourself less resistance and less upset. If you see should bold on the road of incessant good. Yes, so very
Yeah.
true. You get what you focus on. Instead
That
of
law of attraction.
instead of woe is me and what's going on, just yay.
So what are we to do with the people and the circumstances that hinder and immobilize us? Some people that if they're toxic we need to move away from them, period.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If they're family, there ain't no running. So all we
No.
can do is put them on the prayer list. You know what I'm saying? Just pray for
Ex-
them. That's all we can do.
Exactly.
And
Right.
and not engage in their toxicity. You
Correct.
know, and then and also we don't force what we believe and think on them. So to create another level or layer of whatever.
Of combat, if you're trying to force them what you think, and they're trying to force on you what they think, you got just combat. You know, you don't
True
have.
that. True.
Mhm.
Very true.
Oh.
Let's see.
I was just thinking, with that, with sometimes the people that are like not toxic, but that might give us like a little hard time, maybe thanking them for those lessons, kind of, because sometimes we have to learn certain things, and it's, it's reciprocal. I mean, I have this image, not just for us to have like a visual, at least for me, like we have these like contracts before we come, and I imagine us like this huge table, I don't know, the mentors there, and oh, this life I'm gonna work like my main things, or patience or something, and we come across someone who is like, you know what, I want to work on this, and then we can exchange that lesson with each other. And so and it's not with everyone, but I'm, again, this is just my perception, there's certain people that I feel like that complexity is stemming from that, and it almost makes it like a very important experience for me. So I start acknowledging and gratitude for that difficulty. But again, this is not someone necessarily who is like toxic or unhealthy. It might be like a coworker who, we have to work together, and not necessarily when we butt heads, it's not necessarily like, oh, it's terrible, but I don't know. I just have certain people in my life that they're teaching me certain lessons. So yeah, I don't know. It's been helping me a little bit with some people. Again, we do have to measure that, and it's been helping a little.
Man, what are you
That's a
doing?
great attitude. It's a really good attitude.
Doing without any
You know?
shoes?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it
Yeah,
took two.
everybody teaches us something, that's for sure.
Worried about why you don't.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're gonna go to I guess the last part of it. The
Just take a-
apostles to the Gentiles is categorical in his response. Let's see what is that it? No, wait.
There's
No.
got to be more. There's a colon, so there's more.
There's gotta be. I'm trying to get it to go down.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, Sonia.
Yeah. No, I'm just listening.
We ready, Sonia?
You can take it. You can take one.
No, we don't need that shit. Can we have your audio?
He's got it right there. Sorry. You're welcome. All right.
I'll bring you some other.
Don't worry about it. Let us set aside every impediment. Setting difficulties aside, however, does not mean belittling other people's opinions when respectable, nor does it mean running from the daily struggle. It means respecting each person in whatever situation he or she may be in. It means sharing the best angle in the good fight with our best contributions to everyone's evolution. I think that's what we've been saying, and
Mhm.
part of what comes in there is judgment, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
do judgment, and I don't think you need to belittle people's opinions, but you can just be quiet and listen. That's what I do. Try to
Yeah,
be
and
quiet and listen. So, and just listen, because everybody's different. It'd be boring if we were all the same. And everybody has a different thought, good, bad, or indifferent. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's different.
Well, that's why.
sometimes they're wrong. I'm sorry, I'm joking.
No, they don't think they're wrong. It's like,
No,
like,
I know.
like my
I
sister
know.
said, it's like my sister always says, well, good for you. That's,
Yeah.
that's her remark all the time. Good for you. I mean, so.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. When my parents would argue, my father would say to my mother, well, you may be right. And I said, but Mom, he said you may be right. And he said, you don't understand, Valerie. He's also saying I could be wrong. Oh my God. this, this is a happy household. Anyway. Yeah, best to listen.
No dysfunction, right?
Yeah, none. Oh, none. Oh no. No power struggles there.
Well, yeah, you're right. It means respecting each person in whatever situation he or she may be in. It means
Exactly.
sharing the best angle in the good fight. Yeah.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just say, you know, thank you. That's it. Just thank you. I've said it many times. No, thank you. And it ain't what is
Yeah.
going on in my head, but I'm just over it. Don't want to argue with you. Don't
That's
have,
right. That's right.
you're
Yeah,
not the type,
thank you for that.
not
That's
gonna
right.
listen no matter what. So thank you very much.
Like in staff meetings. Oh, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
What's that saying? The definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over
Mhm.
again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
I know a few people like that.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
Yep.
we all do.
Mhm.
and you there's nothing you can say or do, and they're educated, you know, and you leave them alone. You just gotta let them do them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they'll come to me every time, ask me for my opinion. What do I think? And I'm like, why are you asking? You don't.
You don't
Yeah.
listen.
Well, and you don't really care. They do what they want. There's in Native American tradition, if you ask an elder, if you go in and ask an elder for their opinion, and they'll often, well, they'll take a couple of days and they'll dream about it, or they'll try to come back with an answer. And if you do not do what they have directed you to do as an elder, they will no longer give you any advice or do anything, because there's no point. You're just using their time and their energy. So it's like, if you're going to ask someone else
The
their
wisdom.
opinion
Yeah.
with the wisdom, yeah. And if you reject it, well, that's on you. Don't come again.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? So,
I like the rest of this too. So you want to finish?
Yeah. And in the innermost part of our heart, it means proceeding with Jesus today, tomorrow, and always, acting and helping, learning and loving, until the divine light shines in our conscience as much as we are already inside it, albeit unconsciously. Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yes.
nowhere you can be that isn't filled with a light. It's just if you choose to see it or not. We're inside it. That sounds lovely.
Mhm.
Like trying to
That's
see
beautiful.
through God's eyes,
Mhm.
Hmm.
whatever that might mean for each one of us. But
For whatever level we are,
yeah,
that we can see.
Mhm.
well, that's true.
Mhm.
Taylor, you have anything you want to add? You've been mighty quiet this go round.
It's only us, Taylor.
We're not scary.
Just opinionated. No,
Oh
no, that's
no.
not true.
She's a woman. She got an opinion. Come on,
Okay.
Taylor, let us have it.
Even if it's about us, Taylor.
Your mic is on.
We can't hear you. Oh, now we still can't hear you. We see you turn the mic on, but we can't hear you. She's gonna go out, I guess, and try to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you know how that is. So, but anyway,
There she is. Oh,
okay, what did you say? We still can't hear you, Taylor. Now you're on mute. Now you're not. Okay, try.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
What in
Yay.
the world?
I've been there.
I was doing the, oh my goodness. I said, what is wrong with my phone? Lord. No, I
I've
was
been-
saying I was agreeing with all of you. So it was just like, yep, yep, yep. So it was like, I didn't have no more opinions left because y'all took them.
We affirmed them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, you know, they always say, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do, no matter what situation we get in? Well, I
It's
tell you,
hard.
I don't think I've ever stopped and said, what would Jesus do?
And do it.
No, I don't think, I always think how it would make me feel, but I never thought about what would Jesus do. That's a new one for me to practice.
I always try to think about what do I want like out of this situation or conversation? Like what is the solution that I want? And then I try to make that happen from there. And most of the time it's not a fight. It's like I want to be peaceful. I want something to come to a resolution. And I think a lot of people don't really think about the end result when they start a conversation. Sometimes they, just go off of like who hurt them and how,
Mhm.
and it's just their reaction. It's not anything that they're, working towards the end result. And I don't know, like for me, it helps me like word things or say things into the perspective that I need it to be in, especially dealing with so many different people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, seriously, that makes a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah, most people are just reactive
Yeah.
and not considering the outcome.
Mhm.
Like I tell my grandson, there's consequences, good or bad, depends on the decision you make. So think about it. So
How old is he?
15.
Okay, well he's
Yeah.
old enough to know that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
The consequences, yeah. Yep. So I think
Wow.
that applies for us too, shoot.
So that was
I'm,
good.
I'm looking forward to your talk, Sonia,
Oh
on
my.
Sunday.
Me too. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Don't
Yeah,
expect
yep.
anything extravagant. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Well,
Bullets.
Perfect.
We put it
I
to the
prefer that. I prefer that. Bullets and you speak to it,
Oh
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even today, I have
well,
been
let's do our closing prayer.
energetic.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Gina.
I did the opening. I gotta do the closing too.
Well, we'll let Taylor do it.
No, I'm not good yet.
Oh, well, all right. I'll say
Thank you,
a
Valerie.
few words. You're welcome. Dearest Heavenly Father, dearest Jesus, dearest our higher beings that are here that have come together with us to help enlighten us and to bring us closer together and closer to our higher selves. We beseech the attendant heavenly forces for blessings and help us in our common good and our common knowledge that we may succeed. And we give thanks for the success in love that we share on this evening. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Taylor, there's no such thing as getting it right. It just comes from your heart.